I rise to second the motion for the adoption of the minutes of yesterday, as moved by the distinguished senator. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do approve the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 30th day of November 2023. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. From distinguished Senator Augustine Akobondu, he has invited us to a special ceremony of his daughters. With utmost regards and deep pleasure, I, on behalf of my wife, Diola, and indeed our entire families, wish to notify and especially invite you all, distinguished senators, to the traditional marriage rites and wedding ceremonies of our daughter, Ms. Maria Ann Ifeanyiwa Akobondu, with Mr. Chike Gerard. The special events are scheduled to as follows. Saturday, the 23rd day of December 2023, Akobondu's residence at Oroko, Ikuano local government area of Abia State, time 12 noon. Please note that individual invitations with travel guides will be delivered to your offices. Whilst looking forward to the honor of your distinguished presence, please accept the assurances of our highest regards. Signed, Distinguished Senator Akobondu. I wish the couple a happy married life. Leader of the Senate. Yes, point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come under Order 42.
Yes, you may read.
Thank you, Mr. President. Order 42, I read. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no may debate rise upon the explanation. The submission in details to the President of the Senate when is leave to make it such. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my name is David Esu Jimkuta, representing Taraba South, the headquarters of Kororofa Kingdom. A motion on the brutal killing of 10 farmers by suspected armed bandits in Yantu development area of Taraba South on the 24th November 2023 and the increasing spate of attack across the country. The Senate note with the serious concern that the attack that were carried out by suspected bandits on the 24th of November 2023 at 4 different communities of Yantu development area in Taraba South, which result to the brutal killing of 10 people, including the APC chairman for Jinua Ward, Mr. Ephraim Atenji, and his younger brother. Note also that similar attack had took place at Fiku Ward in Usa local government on the 27th of October 2023. Indeed, attacks have consistently taken place over the last 5 months and have affected all the 5 local government area in Taraba South, leading to the displacement of thousands. Aware that Nigeria have been killed in similar attack by suspected armed bandits across the country. Recall that the security agencies have on several occasions vowed to put an end to banditry and kidnapping. In fact, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Ebetokun, when he was appointed on the 25th of June 2023, he said, and I quote, "I feel like a lion ready to chase all criminals out of Nigeria." Concerned that despite this assurance, killing by armed bandits become a daily occurrence, with the people smiling helpless, and security agencies appear to only respond after the attack have been occurred. Worries that the attack, if not properly nipped in the bud, could lead to the breakdown of law and order, not only in southern Taraba, but the entire northeast geopolitical zone. Prayers. The Senate resolved to observe a minute silence to honor Mr. Ephraim Atanji and others that have been killed in those gruesome attacks. Urge the various security agencies to do more proactive and conduct a special operation in order to flush out all the bandits in southern Taraba and Taraba as a whole. To further urge the security agencies to enhance their surveillance, share a collaborative with the local community to gather intelligence that will lead to the swift arrest of those bandits. Direct the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to urgently make available adequate relief materials for those affected by the attack. I so move, Mr. President. Thank you.
Well, let me say that coming under Order 42, no debate may arise from it, but because of the fact that life is involved, I'll just reiterate some of the things you wanted the Senate to do. Observe a minute silence in honor of Mr. Ephraim Atinji, and all those who died in the gruesome attack. So we have noted those things and would like to observe that minute silence. May the soul of Mr. Ephraim Atinji and all those murdered in the gruesome attack rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Senate President, distinguished senators, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Abba Moro on the urgent need to halt the erosion of democracy, the dissolution of elected councils in Benue State. Mr. President, you will recall that on Thursday, 30th November 2023, the Senate vide order 4, sub 2 of our standing order approved that this motion be moved on the next legislative day, which is today. Accordingly, sir, you may wish to invite Senator Abba Moro to move the motion.
Distinguished Senator Abba Moro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Abba Moro. I represent the very good people of the Benue South Senatorial District in the Senate. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I not made Tuesday something that is an affront to democracy and the deepening of democracy happened in Benue State. And by the indulgence of the Senate, I move the motion. The urgent need to halt the erosion of democracy, the dissolution of elected councils in Benue State. The Senate notes with dismay the dissolution of democratically elected councils in Benue State. The Senate also notes that in placing caretaker committees to replace elected councils is an aberration and alien to the 1999 Constitution as amended of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Aware that Section 7(1) of the 1999 Constitution as amended guarantees a system of local government by democratically elected councils. Also aware that it is the constitutional responsibility of every state to ensure the existence of local government councils led by duly elected leadership by the people, and this is sacrosanct. Accordingly, the Senate resolves: 1, condemn the arbitrary dissolution of democratically elected local government councils in Benue State. 2, urge the governor of Benue State to adhere to his oath of office, to obey the rule of law, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. 3, review the dissolution of elected councils and constitution of caretaker committees and reinstate the elected councils. And finally, urge the federal government to withhold statutory allocations to local government councils that are not democratically elected. I so submit, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Victor Ume.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume. I represent the good people of Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, thank you. I rise to second this motion, this very, very important motion brought by the minority leader on the issue of the emasculation of the local government system in Nigeria. I so second, Mr. President, and if you permit me, I want to contribute in the debate.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this issue is a matter that has continued to undermine the local government administration in Nigeria. As the mover of this motion pointed out, Section 7 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria guarantees that there shall be democratically elected local governments in the Federation of Nigeria. Guarantee, that is to say, that all local governments shall be run with democratically elected officials. The mover of the motion also pointed out that the elected officials take oath of office, including the governor of Benue State. And all of us in this chamber, we are all sworn in to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is therefore sad, Mr. President, that this terrible emasculation of the local government system in Nigeria, which has given birth to mismanagement of the resources available to the local governments by some of the governors, because some governors conduct local government elections, I must admit. But many people have continued to disobey the Constitution by tragically removing democratically elected local government officials and replacing them with a caretaker. There's nothing like caretaker in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. The governors of some states have continued to do this and take over the funds given to the local governments from the federation account, and they manage this money through the appointment of somebody they call chairman joint account committee. The caretaker committees are just there as mere appointees of the governor, and they don't question the governor on how the funds gotten from the federation account, how the funds are applied, because they are at the mercy of the governor. If you ask them, they say that the House of Assembly approves the list of these caretaker committee members. There's nothing like that allowed for in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where the House of Assembly will approve the appointment of local government chairman and appointment of people they call councillors. These people are not councillors because the Constitution recognizes councillors. Caretaker does not exist in the Constitution. So if this parliament, if this Senate or the National Assembly does not protect the Constitution of the...
All he did, of course, it has to be from the opposition, not from APC. So in 8 years, all he did was to run his local governments with caretaker. On conclusion of his tenure, he then runs for Nigerian presidency, so that all the states of the federation, he will run the states of the federation with caretaker. Governor Oshumole, you are aware that this cannot happen in a normal situation, but please say something.
Mr. President, with profound respect, you have said it all.
Senator Ome, you say you fought him. I did not mention any name. Oh.
Truth has no political affiliation. Yes. My names are Adams Aliu Eric Oshumole. Yes. I represent the oppressed people of Nigeria and the people of Edo North. Mr. President, sir, I want to thank you for your comments.
Sorry, the civil Senator Oshumole, the people of Edo, who did they elect? Did they elect Eric or Aliu? Who was actually elected? Was it Adams Aliu Oshumole or Eric Aliu Oshumole? Which one?
And I've been told that even if you have 4 names, they represent 1 name, and that is Oshomole. Mr. President, sir, I want to thank you for drawing our attention to some of the things that have happened in the past. And I believe the truth has no political affiliation. I stand here to support in total the spirit and the letter of the motion that was ably moved by our distinguished Senator Abba Moro and seconded by the man with the tallest cap, my very dear friend, whose governor from Abga was dissolved their local government as well. If it is wrong, it is wrong. Yes. I have immunity on this floor in this house, particularly when I'm saying the truth. Sir, I think it is clear the Supreme Court of the land, beside the express provision of the Constitution, we can be accused of being lawmakers but not judges. But the highest court of the land has pronounced time and time again that governors do not have power either to dissolve an elected council, nor do they have power to appropriate and spend money in the name of a local government. Local government caretaker committee is not being elected, just like you said. Each time we turn the other way, we inflict huge damage to the fabric of our democracy. I thought I should stand up because I am not in PDP. But this is not about partisanship. If it is wrong, it is wrong. I was a governor, I was elected, and I met a caretaker in place, even though it was clear that these caretakers were rigged into office. But since it was regularized by the courts, we accept to live with it until we can improve the system. So I've had to live with an elected council chairman who were from another political party until their tenure was exhausted. I resisted all pressure from my party leaders to dissolve them. Because if one can dissolve the other, we too can be dissolved. We all have a shared responsibility to defend the core principles and values of democracy. Yes. Governors are executive, but those elected people also have executive chairmen. They also have executive powers within the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution. So I think it is time that this Senate lend its voice and forcefully persuade the Minister of Finance that wherever there is no elected council chairman, that money due to those councils should not be released to an arm of government that does not exist. Yes. When we do that, that will be a great armor against governors with those dictatorial tendencies. It doesn't matter which party they come from, this Senate must stand for democracy regardless of party affiliation. I so submit, sir.
Distinguished Senator Ndume.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, as the mover of the motion said, this is a very serious threat to democracy. But the Senate here can do a little, especially when it comes to issues on motion. If we do a motion here, whatever prayers we adopt are more of advisory. It has no teeth. The best thing under this circumstance, as he rightly said, is a breach of the Constitution. When there is a constitutional breach, the appropriate place to go is court. I will suggest that my distinguished colleagues and my distinguished colleague take this up with the appropriate court. So that, but what we do here will only amount to advice. That is the truth. We must accept that that is the truth. Most of the governors, as it is now, I think about 16 state government is run caretaker right now, which is illegal, unconstitutional. But they get away with it. Even the governors here that we have here, I hardly think of anyone that did not have caretaker in place, which they know is illegal. Adam said he met one and he allowed it to go on. I don't know whether you had an uncommon one by not having a caretaker. But most of the colleagues here who are governors are guilty of that too. So the best thing, is to condemn such action because it's undemocratic. But in order to give it more strength, is to approach the court. Once the court declares that such action is illegal, then we have solved the problem. Unless we have to amend the Constitution again further. But the Constitution is already clear that there is no provision for caretaker in the Constitution. It's a strange thing in the Constitution. Yet the governors go ahead to caretaker.
Yeah, when you release money to them, it's legal.
So, therefore, as you said, but then what we now do is, if we agree that the Ministry of Finance should not release the money to them, I think that's the only option that we have here as a National Assembly, since we have constitutional oversight responsibility over the... So, in the prayers, maybe we should emphasize that anybody that has caretaker put in place, his money should be kept aside until democratically elected local government takes over. I think that will help solve the problem.
Well, it's not even something to be debated too much about, unless distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, unless you have something you want to add.
Thank you, Mr. President. Buhari Abdul Fattah, or not. Mr. President, in supporting the motion, I just believe that the first thing we should do is when we come to the amendment of the Electoral Act, we should be able to amend the aspect that gives the governor power to be doing the local government election. We should try and strive to take that election back to INEC. That again will strengthen the democracy. Mr. President, I was once a local government commissioner. When you are able to take it there, automatically you have already tied their hand. There is nothing they can do because they know that this is a national election. It's not a kangaroo election where the governor will just sit down with 2 or 3 people and then write the results. Already, that's one of the reasons why probably when money is sent to them, there is nothing they can do. It's the governor that will dictate, that will determine the project you will do. But if INEC takes over, now it will help the democracy, and then democracy will be institutionalized and will be able to move forward instead of here and there, like the Senator Ndume said, 17 to 18 states now are running local government. And then there is this idea that I must win all local government election, even if I'm KKK party. The moment you do it, Mr. President, how do you justify a senator, a rep member, coming from an opposition, but different from the party, and the governor will not do election, the senator will not win his local government? It's so, even his word, it's so funny. So we need to take it serious because from the prayer, one thing is very vital. We can advise the Minister of Finance to hold on to the money. But the main issue where it can work is for us to amend that Electoral Act and make sure that INEC, the one that is conducting it. Thank you very much.
Well, distinguished colleagues, what we have before us concerns only one state, and that is Benue State. And what worries me most is that Benue State currently is under the APC. And these things we used to hear in the opposition parties like ABGA, PDP, and others. So if these things are creeping into the APC, then we must put a stop to it immediately. You know, so now you asked me a question when I was a governor. I had 2 local government elections when I was a governor. 2. I did 2 local government elections. And some of the, well, of course, you know, none of them was less than 3 years. And then some of even the opposition, then ANPP, won in one of my local governments. And there was another local government that another political party won. So I'm saying that even when I was in the wrong party, I did not follow what they were doing because I knew it was wrong. So let us not listen to the distinguished Senator Ningi. Like Senator Oshimole said, what is wrong is wrong. Was it Eric or Oshimole? Which of them? Eric, like Senator Eric said for Edo State, what is wrong is wrong. No, I mean Aliu. So let's go into the prayers. Now, there's another approach which I think we can actually adopt. And that approach will be an amendment, or even, I don't like creating more agencies and commissions. But if we have something like National Electoral Commission for local governments, and then the local government elections council or chairmanship are organized nationally. Even if you don't use INEC, you just have a body, just like you have what they call, like in states, they have State Electoral Commission. If you have a national local government electoral commission that organizes local government elections nationally, you will see that all sorts of local governments will tumble, all sorts of councillors will tumble. So this bandwagon effect of a state governor will come to an end. So we must think in that direction as a National Assembly. We must look at that, the possibility of setting up that kind of national body that will organize local government elections from councillor to chairmanship. When you do that, there's no way somebody will come in as a governor and then come down to say, I'm annulling this. You can't, unless you go to court as a governor. You will not do that. You cannot say, okay, I'm setting this aside and setting that aside. So I don't think it's something we should debate for long, because we have a lot to do today. So let's just go straight into the prayers. But I want to thank the minority leader, distinguished Senator Abba Moro, for bringing this to the fore. And then even if it is being practiced in other states, I think we have to bring this to an end. And at the same time, we have the Legislative Compliance Committee that will look into the final resolutions that we make here today. So prayer 1. Condemn the arbitrary dissolution of democratically elected local government councils in Benue State. Those who are in support of prayer 1 say aye. Amendment? Yes. Senator Ome.
Mr. President, my name remains Senator Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I suggest an amendment to this prayer 1, that instead of Benue State, we'll say in Nigeria, because this is a national malaise. Condemn the arbitrary dissolution of democratically elected local government councils in Nigeria. Benue State in particular. Benue and other states. Is it not the same thing with Nigeria? Okay, Benue State. Okay, don't worry, I'll rephrase it. I move to amend this prayer 1 to read, condemn the arbitrary dissolution of democratically elected local government councils in Benue State and other states in Nigeria. Yes. I so move.
Any seconder? Binus Yaro, distinguished senator.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the amendment of the prayer as moved by distinguished Senator Victor Ume. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, prayer 1 has been amended to read, condemn the arbitrary dissolution of democratically elected local government councils in Benue State and other states of the Federation. Those who are in support of this amended prayer say aye. Aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the governor of Benue State and any other state to adhere to his. Let's read what is here. Urge the governor of Benue State to adhere to his oath of office, to obey the rule of law, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those who are in support of prayer 2 say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Review his dissolution of the elected councils and constitution of caretaker committees and to reinstate the area elected local government councils. In other words, prayer 3 is saying, urge the governor of Benue State to reinstate the area elected local governments forthwith. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. No, prayer 3 say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Urge the federal government of Nigeria to withhold statutory allocations to the local government councils that are not democratically elected across the nation. Those in support of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So once again, I just want to thank distinguished Senator Abba Moro for bringing this to the fore, and thank my distinguished colleagues for their contributions, and say that it is not yet over until we can have further discussions on this, and then bring up legislative procedures to bring the practice to an end. Leader of the Senate.
My very esteemed Senate President, distinguished Senator, the second order of the day is the resumption of adjourned debates on the 2024 Appropriation Bill 2023, SB 290, the second allotted day. Distinguished senators will recall that Senate commenced debate on 2024 Appropriation Bill yesterday, Thursday, 30th November 2023. And so far, 17 senators have contributed. Further debate was deferred until the next legislative day, which is today. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the Senate do resume the debate on 2024 appropriation bill.
Yes, distinguished Senator Abba Moro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that Senate do resume debate on the 2024 appropriation bill. I so second.
Distinguished senators, the motion has been moved and seconded that this hallowed chamber do resume the debate on the 2024 appropriation bill and estimates submitted by Mr. President to us. Those who are in support that we resume the debate say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The rule of the debate stands that we will give each senator 3 minutes, and the distinguished Senate whip, majority whip, will be the timekeeper. But we will adjourn by 1 p.m. to enable our colleagues go to, we will adjourn by 1:30? What? 1? We'll adjourn by 1 for 1 hour and resume by 2. So by 1 o'clock we will adjourn, and then we'll come back by 2 to continue. I want to give everybody the opportunity to have a say on this appropriation. And for the benefit of those outside who may not understand what we are doing, we are only debating the merits and general principles of the 2024 appropriation. We are not yet going into detail clause by clause. This is not a clause by clause consideration. This is to enable us conclude the issue of second reading, after which we will now commit it to the appropriate committee to handle, and of course all the committees of the Senate will handle their MDAs and all that and do their collation. The process of lawmaking may not be understood by outsiders. I saw people on television sitting down to talk about the fact that we're not discussing about which road in Benue, which road in Nasarawa, and so this is not that debate. This is the general principles and merits of the 2024 appropriation bill as submitted to us. So we will start with distinguished Senator, according to the list, Mohammed Adamu Aderu. If he's not here, another person will take the chance. Francis Fadahonsi, I saw him earlier. If he's not here, distinguished Senator Abdullahi Yahya. If he's not here, distinguished Senator Augustine Akobundu. Is he here? Yes. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My very dear colleagues, my name is Austin Akobundu, representing the good and hardworking people of Abia Central Senatorial District. Your Excellency, Mr. President, I come from Oloko Ikwano, your neighbor. First, let me thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to make my contributions to the debate on the general principles of the 2024 appropriation bill presented by Mr. President, His Excellency, distinguished Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR. I wish to start by joining my voices with those of my distinguished colleagues earlier in commending Mr. President for bringing the 2024 appropriation bill to the joint session of the National Assembly in line with the constitutional requirements. I have noted with deep interest the proposed budget, Your Excellency, the size of which is 27.5 trillion for 2024 fiscal year, which Mr. President clearly outlined as seeking to achieve job-rich economic growth, macroeconomic stability, better investment environment, enhanced human capital development, poverty reduction, and greater access to social security. Clearly, the bill anchors its thrust on security, education, healthcare, and poverty alleviation. But, Mr. President, my worry is on the ratio of recurrent expenditure against the capital, as well as debt servicing outlay. With recurrent expenditure of 9.92 trillion, debt servicing of 8.25 trillion, and capital expenditure of 8.7 trillion, I would have thought the alignment ought to place greater emphasis on allocation to capital expenditure, even though this represents an improvement and a departure from the past. Mr. President, you will agree with me that with higher capital budget, the government will have better funds for socio-economic and infrastructural development of the country in the areas of roads, electricity, healthcare, education, and others. Mr. President, I will recall that as the governor of Akwa Ibom State, I am your neighbor and a keen observer of your administration between 2017 and 2015. You laid very great emphasis in closing the gap and even weighing heavier on the side of the capital. I recall the figures of 70-30 ratio and sometimes 80-20 ratio in favor of capital against recurrent. And this gave you clearly the great achievement that are still being applauded today. And my question is, can we not work towards changing the budgeting system to give more allocation to capital expenditure in the interest of Nigerian people? Mr. President, if we had good capital budgets and funding, I believe the long suffering of Nigerians, particularly those of Abia Central Senatorial District, would have been ameliorated. Mr. President, here lies the dilemma of the people who are suffering due to lack of funding or abandonment of projects, such as the rehabilitation of age-old Enugu, Umuahia, Aba, Port Harcourt Expressway, cutting through 5 senatorial districts, with mine inclusive. The construction of Umuahia, Ikotekpene, Umuahia, Ikuano, Ikotekpene Road, which you are very, very familiar with. That project has been suffering. I recall the efforts you made while you were governor up till today. Years after the award, it is still struggling due to poor funding with its attendant problems to commuters. It's still like that. Your Excellency, the abandonment of Untalaku Oloko Nchara Road, which also links up to your state, was awarded since year 2011 is still a problem. On the issue of budget financing, Mr. President, I know that every nation borrows money. But allow me to say that we can fund this budget without borrowing through reinvigorating our strategy on internally generated revenues by ensuring that key enablers and drivers of revenue generation are retooled. And that brings to mind, for example, custom duties and excise duties. In this matter, I think that enhanced technology and automation must be deployed. A few days ago, I joined the Finance Committee, and I was impressed by the level and quality of engagement of members of that committee, led by the chairman, with the agencies saddled with the responsibility.
So you rang off, eh? Use your mic.
I was using my soldier's voice, Your Excellency. Finally, I want to thank Mr. President for the interest in prioritizing security. But as somebody with a security background, I would now like to talk about the strategy and the tactics. But we want to commend and recommend that greater emphasis should be paid and placed on intelligence gathering. Finally, Your Excellency, once more, I recommend a higher push in the area of education, healthcare, poverty alleviation to ensure that we meet the expectations and yearnings of the Nigerian people. We do not have the details, but when we have the details, I will propose that we do due diligence. Thank you, Your Excellency.
I need to say that you pass the time with 2 minutes, not 20, because some of the things you were saying, you were recalling the good old days when I was a governor, and so Nigerians wanted to hear you more. That's why I you. Yes, distinguished Senator Abiru. No, I'm going according to the list. Okay, after Senator Abiru, the seniority can go on.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. Well, Mr. President, my name is Senator Mukahil Adetokunbo Abiru. And for me too, I'll just be speaking to the general principles of the budget. And my starting point will be that from the onset, I believe strongly that the basis of the budget, that's the assumptions, they appear rational from the way I have perceived it so far. And I say this with every sense of responsibility. And it is based on the way and manner that the president started out on his leadership. As we may all recall, you know, the president started by trying to align all the distortions that we have within the macroeconomic setting of the country. And by that, I mean by the removal of the fuel subsidy, by the convergence in the FX rate, and also the tax reforms that we have embarked upon, or we have seen him embarked upon. So for me, if you look at the basis and the assumptions underlining the budget, you will see that the fundamentals will have taken a cue from all the distortions that are being corrected within the macroeconomic framework. So starting with the oil price at $77, I think is rational. The exchange rate at 750, I also believe is rational. And by the time we look at the revenue projection, which is almost about 70% of prior year's revenue, you can also see that all of this can be achieved from the macroeconomic alignment that we are gradually correcting in the country. So another major feature of the budget that I also align with is the
the reduction or the gradual reduction in deficit financing. As we may all recall, the 2023 budget, which had a size of 24 trillion, had a deficit component of about 11 trillion, while the current budget of 27.5 trillion has a deficit component of 9 trillion naira. So for me, if you look at that, that means we are gradually moderating our deficit financing and the reliance on using debt to be a major component of our budget financing. And so the two major comments that I think I will take out of this budget setting is that, one, I think we are beginning to see a fiscal discipline within our budget framework, because hitherto, what we used to find as the component of our deficit financing has been about 6%, while this is slightly above 3% and is gradually complying with our Fiscal Responsibility Act that limits us to about 3% of deficit financing. Equally, yes, sir. So equally, the projection around the revenue is, to me, is also achievable, because part of the underlying assumption too is that we are going to improve our tax to GDP ratio from about 10 to 18%. So for me, again, I think that the revenue projection too is achievable. However, I will also like to caution on three specific areas. One, I think that as Senate, we have to, very cautiously monitor the budget performance in terms of the revenue target. Just this morning, part of what we gathered is that the oil production target, which is about 1.78 million barrels, has been moderated by OPEC to 1.5. That means we need to redouble efforts. Equally, I believe that our GOEs too, we must make sure that they live up to expectation in terms of revenue accretion. And lastly, the target around inflation, I think, is important, and that is one of the major things that affect the common man. Yes, we have seen a target of 21%, but again, both the fiscal and the monetary authorities, there must be some kind of understanding. Because on one side, the monetary authorities are trying to, rein in inflation, reduce it, and on the fiscal side, they are also planning to grow the economy. So it is important that the alignment and understanding must come together for us to have a budget that is realistic and also a budget that will also benefit the common man. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Alindume.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. My contribution is going to be very brief, but by way of advice to our colleagues. You have said it, that this debate is not looking at the details of the budget, but general principles, so that we can, because we have a challenge of time, 30 days or less, to get done with this budget, so that we remain within the January-December budget. You have said it all, and distinguished Senator Ashiru also highlighted some of those. So I beg of my colleagues that will speak after me to shorten the debate, because most of it is the principles. What is the purpose of government? The security and welfare of its citizens. And that is even the main crux of the matter. Mr. President said attention will be paid to security, job creation, and poverty reduction, and they are appropriately allocated the right amount. Well, the non-recurrent expenditure is of concern, but as we go along, that tells each department or the committee to look out and oversight properly. Social investment has been given 534 billion. Debt service is of concern too, and that's why we need to look at the debt of the country with the view to doing something, maybe to renegotiate or do something. The capital expenditure has gone up first in the history. It crossed the 30% borderline, is about 30.2%, which is very impressive. Now, the deficit also is of concern, but It's commendable since deficits have been pulled down from 13% in this year to 9.18% next year. That is also commendable. Even the funding, where it has been said that 7.8 is to be borrowed. Borrowing is not wrong. It is what you do with the money that you borrow that matters. And the president in his presentation made it clear that these borrowings will be used for infrastructural development that will be visible and people will see it. Once Nigerians see what the money they borrow for is, like railway, like this, it will now be something worthwhile or worth it. The revenue side, Ashiru said it all, that we are projecting, Abiru, yes sir, Abiru, Ashiru, I don't know what you know. So, it's 18.32 trillion. The good thing about it is majority of it is coming from the non-oil sector, which is very promising. And about 10.3 billion is coming from non-oil related. The budget deficit also is something that is impressive. Last year, or this year that is running out, we had 6.1%. Now it's down to 3.8%. This is very encouraging. What the Senate need to do, and what we need to do within this time frame, is to give the president the chance to implement his renewed hope. The budget has shown it, and we need to give him a chance. All we need to do in the next 12 days to go out is to cross the T's, dot the I's, and make a provision of, we call it provision for judgment of error, 5% plus, 5% minus, and work on the budget within the time. If possible, less than the time, so that we will pass the budget and give the president the chance to do what he intends to do with our support. So I beg of you to make the debate short, because in 8 minutes...
This is Senator Obe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent the people of Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, without the risk of sounding repetitive, because I've just listened to our colleagues that spoke now, I want to say that this budget meets my expectation that the government will make effort to put most of the problems we have in Nigeria out of the way. Looking at the figures we have, particularly at page 6, where the president summarized his vision on this budget, you will clearly see that the dollar, which is presently exchanging for about 1,150 naira per dollar, has been projected to exchange for 750 naira in 2024. It gives a lot of hope. In making this projection, it is obvious that the economic team of the president is thinking about how to shore up the value of the naira. So it's encouraging. Then on the issue of budgeting, the projected debt service is 45% of the expected total revenue. What this means is that we shall have 55% of the total projected revenue for our recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure. This is a remarkable improvement to what we had in the recent past, where almost all the earnings Nigeria made in revenue were channeled at debt servicing. And we couldn't even service our debts, in the previous recent past. So the budget deficit of 9.18 trillion for 2024 is a great hope to us who observe these things from outside. In 2023, it was 13.78 trillion. deficit. So I agree with the general principle of this budget that most things are going to be tinkered with to make a remarkable change in our fiscal numbers, things that put pressure on the economy. Because we don't have the breakdown of the budget, my expectation is that by the time we have the budget breakdown, we'll be able to see how these funds are allocated and channeled to the various sectors. So I sincerely hope, and I pray so, that this budget will help us a great deal in rejigging the economy of Nigeria. I will hope for an even application of these funds when we see the breakdown to dealing with the infrastructure deficits across the country. The president said some funds will be borrowed. We want these funds to be applied in the provision of infrastructure across Nigeria without excluding anybody. The issue of railway, which I spoke about, and I brought a motion here, the fund that will be borrowed, I will expect that when we go to see these things, that some money must be put on the Eastern Rail Line in terms of starting the standard gauge rail. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. That last contribution is very important. That is on the starting the Eastern Rail Line with the standard gauge. Am I right? Yes. Not the narrow gauge. Okay. Distinguished Senator Ndume, you may wish to move a motion that we adjourn for 1 hour and come back to commence by 2.
Acting Leader.
Mr. Senate President, I move a motion that we should adjourn to enable our Muslim brothers to perform their prayer for a period of 1 hour. And that's to say that by 2 o'clock, we should all resume here. I so move.
Dismiss Senator Kawo. Okay. The minority leader is up.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, my distinguished colleagues. I want to second the motion moved by the leader that this Senate adjourns for 1 hour to enable our Muslim brothers and sisters observe their Friday prayer and resume at 2 o'clock. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the Senate is still in session, but the leader has moved for suspension of debate for 1 hour to enable us attend to Juma prayers and to resume by 2 o'clock. And then the minority leader has seconded the suspension of debate until 2 o'clock. Those who are in support that debate be suspended for 1 hour between 1 and 2 to enable us observe our Juma prayer, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So the suspension of 1 hour debates. Thank you.